guys, thanks for joining me for another video. In today's video, I am going to try to figure out the best spot on my property to locate my beehives. From what I've learned, there are a number of factors that I need to consider before I choose where these hives are going to go. One thing is you'll need to be able to place your hives either south or southeast so that that early morning sun hits the hives, kind of gets the bees up and moving and doing their thing early in the morning. Another consideration is the amount of sunlight, the number of hours in the day that this hive is actually going to be in full sun. This is where it gets a little confusing for me because experienced beekeepers have some differing opinions on this. Some say dappled sun, some say full sun. Now, I live in the south, so in the middle of the summer, it gets really, really hot, and I see that as a potential problem because the bees are going to have to work really hard to keep that hive cool during that extreme heat in the summertime. Saying that, one of the instructors in a course that I took really likes to keep his hives in full sun. He feels like it helps control the varroa mites, the hive beetles, and that sort of thing. He feels like that the colonies are healthier when they're in full sun. Since my goal is to raise my bees in a chemical-free way, not using things that are going to kill off those mites or hive beetles, perhaps a full sun location would be best for me, but I still have to decide that for sure. I'll want to try to keep the hives away from a completely shaded area though, because that could create a listless colony, and we don't want that. You'll want to have a windbreak of some sort, whether it's a fence or a row of hedges or bushes that you've planted. Now again, I live in the south, so probably not as big of a concern for me because we just don't get the frigid temperatures that say a beekeeper in the north would. You'll also want to make sure that your hives aren't located too far away from your house or in rugged terrain. I can't imagine that hauling those heavy frames of honey is going to be any kind of fun in the middle of the summer, especially if it's a long distance or rugged terrain. I have horses, so one of the considerations I need to take is where are the hives located in relationship to the horses. I really don't want them too close to the horses and have the horses accidentally get in their flight pattern and create all sorts of trouble. So something I need to think about. Probably one of the most important things is you need to be within 1/4 mile of a water source. Now on my property, I have a creek that runs through my property, so just about anywhere that I put the beehives on this property, it's going to be within 1/4 mile of the creek, so I should be good there. Let's just walk around the property and I can show you the spots that I'm considering. I have a number of acres here, so I have a lot of options, but I think that I've narrowed my choices down to about 3 spots that I think fit most of the criteria that I talked about earlier. Feel free to give me your opinions about any of those locations in the comments section below. What do you think is good or bad about the spots that I've chosen? From the beginning, this has been my favorite spot. As you can see, it's fenced. It has the little shed that I could use to keep my beehive equipment and tools. And as we make our way around the yard, just on the other side of the fence there is where the creek is. Now, some of the cons are this yard is not in full sun until about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then later in the afternoon, like I said, my concerns are these hives just cooking in the middle of the summer when it's so hot. We do have a little bit of shade over against the fence, so if I place the hives there, I could use the shade in the afternoon as well as that fence as a windbreak. Another con is it's right by the driveway. This is a high traffic area for us. So I'll take you and show you some of my other choices, my 2 other choices. I have this really nice stretch along the horse pasture where I'm anticipating putting some blueberry and blackberry bushes this summer. but it does put them very near the horses. Even though I would be turning the hives facing the opposite direction from the pasture, I still have some concerns there. And again, just right over that direction. I don't think you can see it, but the creek is right there. So if I were going to put it along this fence line, I have quite a distance that I can do it. There's a nice spot right up at the top. You can see in the distance, there's a cabin. We're working on the cabin to use as an Airbnb. So I really don't want to get the hives too far down that way because I wouldn't want our guests to end up getting stung. My last choice I guess I should talk about the other cons through here. Not a super shaded area, so they would not have any shade in the afternoon. So I have to decide if I'm going to be a full sun girl or an afternoon shade kind of beekeeper. And there's no windbreak. I would definitely have to plant some kind of windbreak, but I did think if I were going to use this area to do blueberry and blackberry bushes, it could maybe serve double duty, and I could maybe put the hives in front of my row of blueberries and blackberries. Okay, now I can show you the last spot. Whoa! I almost fell down. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? And I've got company, my little kitty Pitch. Pitch Black, she's coming to help. Okay, so some of the pros for putting them by the garden would be, once again, I have this little gardening shed that I could use for my beehive, or I'm sorry, my bee supplies and equipment. And the horse pens are right here, but again, I would be placing the hives southeast, so that faces them the opposite direction from the horses. Isn't that the cutest shed ever? So here's my garden plot. All my seeds are inside being started, so anxious to get those in the ground. But I could put my hives here. The bees would be close to the garden. We could maybe get them to do some pollinating in the garden, though I guess there's no guarantee to that. Some of the cons are it is a little bit further away from the house, plus up a hill, so again, think about carrying those heavy honey frames. And there's no fence. Since we do live in the woods and on the creek, we do have raccoon and skunk and possum, not to mention the deer that come through. And my concern with the deer is there maybe would rub up against them and knock them over or something. Plus, there's no windbreak here. So I'd likely be building a fence, which I'll probably end up having to do for the garden anyway, but also some sort of a windbreak. So what do you guys think? Am I missing anything? Or do you guys have any comments or thoughts about the spots that I am considering to put my hives? If you do, just leave me your suggestions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to continue following on this crazy journey of mine, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join me in the next one where I will be revealing where I actually chose to put the hives, and we will be getting the hive stands set up and the beehives in place. Thanks again. See you in the next one.